On December 10th of 1787, a man named Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As a young boy, Thomas and his family moved to Hartford, Connecticut to find better education for the children. Thomas attended the Hartford Grammar School along with his 12 younger siblings. This school is what taught Gallaudet the basis of his education. After attending the school for 2 years, Thomas, at the age of 15, attended Yale University. He graduated first in his class and youngest in his class in 1805 with a degree in education. Soon after he graduated, he was unsure about which career path to take. After years of thinking, Thomas later returned to Yale in 1808 to get his master's in arts degree. Ever since Thomas was little and before his family moved to Hartford, Thomas always had dreams about becoming a minister. So after graduating from Yale for the second time, Gallaudet attended the theological seminary located in Andover, Connecticut in 1812. Gallaudet worked extremely hard during this time to one day become a minister. In 1814, Gallaudet's hard work paid off when he graduated from the school with a license in preaching. After preaching for a short period of time, Gallaudet wanted to come home to see his family. So on May 25th of 1814, Gallaudet came home. When he arrived, he noticed that his siblings were playing in the front yard with other children that had lived in the neighborhood. In the corner of his eye, he saw a little girl who nobody was playing with. He went outside to inspect why nobody was playing with her, and to his surprise, she was deaf. The little girl's name was Alice Cogswell, and after trying to communicate with her for a few minutes, he knew that it was helpless. There was no realistic way to communicate with Alice because at the time Gallaudet did not know American Sign Language. Soon after meeting Alice, Gallaudet's focus shifted from preaching and ministry to finding a way to communicate with not only Alice but all deaf people. Gallaudet was introduced to Alice's father, whose name was Mason Finch Cogswell. In 1815, Gallaudet, upon request from Mason Cogswell, was asked to travel to England to learn educational methods to help teach the deaf people in America. Mason Cogswell was a very wealthy doctor and would pay for the trip to England. The reason Mason Cogswell sent Thomas Gallaudet to England was because England had multiple deaf schools, and Mason knew that England had a lot of schools that Gallaudet could learn from. Mason Cogswell also had the idea of opening the first deaf school in America. And since Cogswell was extremely busy with his own job, he sent Gallaudet. When Gallaudet arrived in England, he met the Braidwood family, who owned a lot of deaf schools in England at the time. The Braidwood family's method of teaching was to get them to be masters at lip reading. The Braidwood family did not want to share their methods with Gallaudet since he was just an American upstart. The Braidwood family said that if Gallaudet wanted their methods, that he would have to pay a fee. And since Gallaudet was unable to pay the fee, the Braidwood family would not help him. But Thomas Gallaudet was not a fan of the lip-reading method, so he knew that he would have to come up with another way. While in England, Gallaudet met a man named Abbé Sicard, who was the director of the Royal Institution for the Deaf located in Paris, France. Thomas Gallaudet also met a man named Laurent Clerc, who was the graduate from the institution and a faculty member also at the institution. Laurent Clerc was also a deaf man. The three men traveled from France to England so that they could teach Gallaudet more about communicating with the deaf. Laurent Clerc was Gallaudet's teacher at the Royal Institution for Deaf, and Clerc taught Gallaudet a new form of communicating with the deaf, which was called sign language. The two worked and studied together for weeks, but Gallaudet soon realized that he had almost ran out of funds for the trip and did not learn enough information to create a school for the deaf in America. He was unsure about what to do, but he asked Clerc to come with him back to America and help Gallaudet establish the first ever school for deaf in America. And Clerc agreed. They both went back to America together, and on the way home, Clerc continued to teach Gallaudet sign language in April 15th of 1817, the Connecticut Asylum of the Deaf and Dumb Persons opened its doors to the public. Gallaudet was the first principal, and Clerc was the first teacher. Alice Cogswell was the first student to attend the American School for Deaf. Gallaudet was the principal at the American School for Deaf from 1817 to 1830, and later died in 1851 because of a lung disease. His wife, named Sophia Fowler, was a graduate from the American School for Deaf, and they had 5 children together. Laurent Clerc, who taught at the school from 1817 to 1858, got sick in 1858, and the sickness is what took his life. Located in West Hartford, Connecticut, the American School for Deaf is still standing and is still teaching deaf students. When the American School for Deaf was created, deaf schools around the country began opening everywhere. Now in the U.S. alone, there are 78 deaf schools and growing. Each year, the school teaches around 475 students.
I'm a senior, and when I think back to what my best memory is, it would be my freshman year when I started high school. Also, this building, the GCEC, when it first opened in 2013, that was the fall of 2013. That coincided with my freshman year, my first year in high school. It is because it's the first school for the deaf in America. We have full communication access. We have access to an education and to a future. We have everything here. ASD is my second home. I started here in 1929. I got a very good education at ASD, very good. Thanks to all of my deaf teachers. One of the teachers advised me and said that the world is not easy to live in. You will face many frustrations. You must accept them and be patient. If your boss asks you to do something, you need to do it. Don't be rebellious. Don't talk back. Just take it, be patient, make sure you obey your boss regardless of what they ask you to do. There's a lot of positive change. And education has changed me, the school environment as well. I've realized that this is a good school for me. It's good for kids to learn in the same community. I feel more involved and more engaged in my classes. I think the activities that we do together are fun. We're all deaf, we're all the same. We're always able to communicate, and we learn the same.
The American School for Deaf has opened many opportunities for the deaf students of all ages and will continue to teach them for as long as needed. Although the American School for Deaf is no longer the only one of its kind in the U.S., it still plays a big role in deaf history. The school helps so many kids communicate with others, and without the school, those kids may have never received a proper education that they deserve.